Welcome, and I hope it does record. This is probably the first time I've recorded a meeting in Teams. I'm so used to recording in Zoom. All right. Now, is my voice clear? Yes or no? All right, lovely. All right. Most important thing. The microphone is probably more important than the video. All right. Just a recap, 60-second recap on what we covered in technically was week in not last week, grand finals week 8, but in week 7 we had our last meeting. That was the 20th of September, and what we did was I brought in a little bit of my material from another textbook, and my purpose is not to confuse you, but was to enable you or to help you to understand how do you connect the chapters 4, 5, and 6, which keep talking about Michael Porter, keep talking about strategic capability, keep talking about the external environment. Like, it's great to talk, but how do you operationalize these ideas inside the organization? And that's what we focused on. And one way of actioning or operationalizing was to create a balanced scorecard. And that was made up of S, M, and S. That is strategy. And as a reminder, we focus simply on Porter's strategy, cost leadership or differentiation. I showed you a strategy map. Okay. Then there was measurement, and then there was systems thinking. And it's a strategy that you have control over. You decide, oh, we're going to differentiate. We're going to cost leadership. But it's really defined by how the customer sees you. Does the customer come to you because they want to save money? Then that's cost leadership. Does the customer come to you because you have a particular differentiating factor like brand, fast delivery, high quality? Then that is a differentiation strategy. And working with that, we focused on, if we have a particular strategy, what type of measures should we put in place at the financial level, at the customer level, at the operational level, and at the learning and growth level. And once we started talking about the M word, measurement, then that is real practical stuff that you can take away, because anyone can talk about strategy. But once you say, I want to measure customer satisfaction, then that is real. You're okay. You go into an organization, do they measure customer satisfaction? They either do or they don't. All right. But if you ask them, oh, what is your strategy? You might have 10 different answers. All right. Do you measure customer satisfaction? The answer can only be yes or no. All right. There's no gray area. So that's why that last week we went out of the gray area of what we think our strategy is to setting up measures that turn that gray area into black and white action operational plans. And that's basically is not covered very well in your ACCA material. All right. How do you go from strategy to operationalizing their strategy. And so I just thought I'd spend some time on that, not to confuse you, but to try and give you some practical takeaway. And that's the balanced scorecard. So do have a look at I've got a video on the balanced scorecard that you can watch if you didn't come to that session. It's on YouTube and that's free. And I think that's very helpful. And the SMS, so strategy, measurement, then there's systems thinking. Systems thinking is really all the connections between the measures or the operations in the organization. Some connections you don't see, others you do see, but it's a way of aligning all the employees' thoughts, their norms, their values, their thinking. You want to align them in terms of how they think the organization makes money. Does the organization make money by doing everything fast, or does the organization make money by making things cheap? Or does the organization make money by making the best quality? And systems thinking kind of makes all those connections between what the organization, what employees are thinking, their mindset, how they approach their job, what the operations are doing, and then how that translates into the customer satisfaction and how that translates into financial revenue. And so the system thinking is about how you do those connections. The measurement of each of those areas makes visible those connections. So the measurement makes visible the organization system of value creation. And that's how you get the S, M, and S. All right. Okay. This week, we are moving on from chapter 10 to chapter 11. And that is the applications of IT. And we won't cover every part of chapter 11 because there is a lot there, whole page, and then there's more. What is important is for me to give you practical examples. Excuse me. Back again for chapter 11. I'm going to share a slide. Know how to do it. Raise, react, people, apps, rooms, more, record, video, settings, share. Okay, share. All right, can you see my sharing? Okay, good. So you've got the slides, and chapter 8 briefly just talks a little bit about cloud, big data, machine learning. Like I highly recommend that you become familiar with at least one of these areas. That would put a lightning rod behind your capability and opportunities in your career. Okay, you don't have to know about all three, but start to listen to podcasts to become familiar with the terminology. And so either you have an interest in cloud, mobile, smart technology, maybe big data analytics, or AI and robotics. And there's some podcasts I can recommend to you. Really nice one on analytics, which they talk about AI as well. And if you don't believe me, you can see that I'm very big on your learning. If I show my podcast app, there's a lot of podcasts there, and there you can see AI, you can see the supply chain, you can see data analytics. There's lots of different apps that I regularly listen to for my continuing education. Next, cloud computing, software as a service or infrastructure as a service. I think it's important that you know the difference. Generally, software as a service is much more expansive because it is cheaper and it enables entrepreneurs, it enables small businesses to get into the e-commerce game with very little investment. Whereas infrastructure as a service is something that much larger organizations use because they need more bandwidth, they have more customers, and they have more products, and things are much more complex in their operations. So just keep it in mind as that way. Many of us, and you would probably know software as a service, even when you're using Microsoft Office, you are using software as a service. You may not have known that, but that's what a software as a service is. An app on your phone that helps you do something like sign up for a Taylor Swift concert, get in line to get your car washed, do something else. That is software as a service too. Okay. And I've even created my own app because I wanted to teach students how to get their own house in order. If I can find it, I will show you later. But that app was more not connected to the web, so it's cheaper for me to create, where you can actually use it, ask several questions about your capability, your strengths and weaknesses, and just to help you track your path to success. Okay, so that little app that I created is something like, if I were to sell it, if I were to link it to the web, then I could sell that as like a software as a service. Okay, so don't just think that Microsoft Office is the only thing as software as a service. There's many apps out there. All right, then the Internet of Things, that's where you've got the software, you've got hardware, you've got firmware. So firmware is the thing that programs the hardware to do something. You might have an app that you download so your phone becomes a remote controller for your TV. You don't have to use the TV remote controller. You can download the Samsung app and then use your phone. So that app will have firmware that allows the phone to physically communicate with another object. And that's what we mean by Internet of Things, because now we're transferring something like digital into something that's physical. So, and any application that has firmware that translate the digital world into the physical world, then you have the Internet of Things. Exciting stuff. And if you're really interested in that, there's 50 interviews that I have done on my YouTube channel where I interviewed 50 entrepreneurs, and most of them, over half of them, had Internet of Things products. Very interesting. All right, then there's the cloud. And of course, we're using the cloud today in talking to each other. So no need for me to tell you what the cloud means here. But another big benefit or a big encouragement I'd have for you is to make sure that you have your own private cloud, like file sharing. You have a hard disk drive, right, to save your files, am I right? Yeah. Well, there's probably a dozen or 2 dozen cloud providers around the world, hardware, that will charge you so much per year to store your data. And I use sync.com, you could use Dropbox, you have Microsoft OneDrive, Google has a drive for you. My only recommendation that I would share with you is if you have important data, then, and you were to ask me, is it safer to save it in a secure cloud or hard drive? Then a computer technician once told me, he said, oh, it's much safer to have your data in the cloud, because most of these top cloud services have backup. They have all the encryption that your data cannot be stolen, things like that, but they have backup. So if they're actually storing your data on hard drives, but they have hard drives that are backups of those hard drives. And I'll ask you, all right, you've got some sensitive data on your hard drive. Do you have another hard drive that's a backup of that hard drive? You don't. So therefore, the cloud service is more secure than your hard drive. All right, so keep that in mind. That's more personal recommendation. I don't get affiliate links or commission for selling cloud services here. All right. Okay, so, and I do want to make, my talking as practical as possible for you. All right, so there's big data risks, of course. You may think, generally, there's several, I store my data with a company that's out of Switzerland, and so I feel that's quite secure in that way. Others are happy with Dropbox, secured in the USA, and so you have your different preferences about where your data where you feel secure with storing your data in the cloud. All right. So there's lots of different things that we can talk about AI, robotics, and machine learning. Just a small thing on the consumer AI. Are you all using ChatGPT? Sia, you're hesitating. Are you using ChatGPT? Yes or no? Yeah. All right. Prash, are you using it? Good. Islam, are you using it? Okay. My personal recommendation is that you need to be using it. Okay. Not saying use it to cheat. I'm saying you need to be using it, because I tell you, the first job that you start to work for a company, you will be expected to know how to use it. All right. It would be very strange. You turn up a job interview and they say, oh, so tell us, how much do you know about generative AI? Oh, I don't use it because I want it to be clean from cheating and blah, blah, blah. And I think, okay, that's good, but we want you to use it because we find on average most of our administrative employees, when they are using it, their productivity goes up by 25%. And we don't have to hire 12 people. We only need 8 people now to do these administrative tasks. All right. So you've got to, this is why I'm encouraging to use it, because you need to be aware of how can you prompt GPT? How can you make it create tables? Can you make it create graphs? Do you know how to do that? And if you ask it to make a graph, what happens, Prash?
I have used as tables, not in the graph.
You know what it will do if you ask it to create a
Yeah.
graph? It will just give you the Python code. Did you know that?
No, I
It
just
won't
use
create
it.
a graph. But if you take that Python code and go to a cloud platform that's created by Google, and you plug in that Python code, that platform will create the graph for you. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
All right. So this is what you need to become familiar with these things. And I think as educators, we need to encourage you to use it responsibly, but just know how to use it to really create value in your workplace when you go to work, when you're in your new workplace. All right. And the name of that cloud that you put the Python into, the Python code, because I've done it myself and I learned about it and I thought, wow, this is so cool. I didn't know that, but now I do know. I cannot say I don't know. That cloud is, I think it's called Colab. Okay, Google Colab. All right. So here's your Google Colab, and I can go. You set up your own little account. It's free. You create. If I go into one I created in the past, and you'll see I put in the Python code, and there's the Python code, and I'm wondering if it created. Maybe let me have a look at file collab. Let's just go back to the top. Search results. I thought I did. Remember, this is under Google. And let me just load. No, I don't want to do that. You're in Google. Wait a minute. No, I'm in Google Drive here. Let's go to Google Colab, right? And all right, if I get new notebook, there's a new notebook for me to start coding. If I go to AI, right? Let's go GPT, right? Are you interested in me showing you? Right. So if I say GPT, can you, wait a minute, let me just have a look. Adoption, Industry 4.0 adoption challenges. All right. Can you write me a Python? Can you draw a graph that shows the different proportions of challenges in Industry 4.0 in manufacturing in Australia. Okay. All right. I've asked it to draw a graph, right? So let's have a look. And I'm using ChatGPT-4. So this is the premier one. This is the premium, not the free one. I subscribe to this. Okay, so it's analyzing, and I expect that it's addressing the problem. I don't expect it to create a graph. I expect it to create Python code. Often it will just give you the code. It cannot do the, right? It seems there's an issue. Yeah, it can, right? Right. Okay. Can you generate the Python code for the graph? Okay, here's our Python code. See? All right. Now I'm speaking its language. Right? Right. So let's get that code. Let's just take import. Let's just copy code. Let's go to Colab and we paste that in. And then we run that code. Don't know if it'll work, but let's just see. Wow! 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 Amazing! Unbelievable! Look at that. All right. So, you know, how good is that?
It's really good.
All right. So, and I would encourage you to subscribe to GPT-4 when you reasonably can, because this is the stuff you need to know how to do without having to be shown. Okay. All right. So I think that's one of the big takeaways you want to take away from this week. Okay. All right. So Colab. All right. Google Colab, COLAB. All right. Got that? Sina, what do you think? Are you blown away?
Yes, I am. I thought that ChatGPT does not support graphs and all, but this is amazing.
Prash, what do you think? Are you
That's
blown
really
away?
good. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's really
Excellent.
easy now.
Yeah. All right. So don't forget to start using, you probably haven't heard of Colab. So just sign up for that. It's an extension of Google Docs or Google. Of course, you might need to have storage space in Google and things like that. But all right. I'm not using Gemini. I don't use Gemini, but I'm sure Gemini might be able to create the same thing, create the Python code, you put in the Colab and then all right. And so this Industry 4.0 takes us on to where I want to go today. All right. So I think we're going pretty well so far. Now these activities and solutions is basically part of your assignment. You're going to be doing your assignment on Tesla's strategy, and you can read about the ethics of Tesla, and then there's activity 1 about how Tesla model using autopilot tragically hit and killed a pedestrian who was standing at the edge of an expressway in Tokyo following an earlier incident. And yeah, so is this the fault of the driver or the autopilot?
Autopilot.
What do you think, Sina?
Yeah, I'm just reading the whole case. Actually, just give me a moment. Yeah, of course, autopilot.
Autopilot, yeah. So therefore, who do you sue?
Tesla.
Tesla, yes. But Tesla's out of state. You know, you have to sue the subsidiary in Japan, if there is one. And so this becomes an international nightmare because you've got these foreign cars going around the world running into people, you know. So this is something that I think the world has not yet fully understood and addressed. And it might be that the autopilot is safer than the average driver. It's just that it creates these strange events, sadly, in this case. So it's a bit of an ethics question. There's another question about activity 2. And we can go over some of these, but I think the big idea here is if we talk about the V's of big data, volume, veracity, velocity, variety, it just means just lots of data, all right? And as you can see now, GPT enables you to take all that data and to put it into a diagram. It enables you to put that data, you can put into a table. You can do lots with data now. And then you can ask GPT, oh, given this graph, can you write a paragraph to explain what the graph means? Okay, so it's amazing what what the future is going to be like is that, yeah, your future work, you would be expected to just figure things out more. All right. No one's going to hold your hand as much as in the past. Okay. They might hold your hand on the mental side, but not on the learning side. You're just going to have to continue to learn. Okay. A small example with me, I'm supposed to be in the accounting discipline, right? Okay. And back in 2008, probably before then, I decided that, yeah, maybe I'm in accounting, but I really need to connect with industry. So I went out and interviewed 1,000 suppliers because I was in Hong Kong. I go across the trade expos. I can interview 10, 15, 20 suppliers in one day with my team. And I did that. I supervised the interview of 1,000 suppliers within 2 and a bit years by 2012. That enabled me to connect with industry. Global Sources invited me to speak to buyers from all over the world. I was suddenly giving advice to buyers about how to source from China. Is that accounting? No. But I just kept learning. And then I decided, when I went to Baptist University in 2014, I thought, I know I'm going to Global Sources trade shows, talking to buyers. Why don't I bring students there to do their assignments in the trade shows? No one else is doing that. And I became the only professor to bring students to trade shows, to talk to suppliers, real business. These were accounting students. Then that led to me, I want to do something more. When I'm talking to buyers, I want to be even more authentic. I want videos of factories. So I started going and visiting factories in China, 40 of them, videoing end to end. They're all in my YouTube. That took about 3 years. So by 2017, I go to Monash University, Malaysia, and they ask, Neil, so what are your big free requests? We want you to come and join us. What do you want? And I said, I want to be able to develop and teach a supply chain management course, completely out of the discipline of accounting. I developed it, I taught it, and it became an award-winning course for the 4 times I taught it at Monash, because it wasn't taught out of a textbook. It was taught out of my authentic connections with factories in China, getting students to do real authentic exercises like getting an RFQ from a supplier. What I'm showing you is that, yes, I'm an accountant, but I never stopped learning. And I never stopped interacting with industry. And just, so with that, I want to present to you a presentation on AI, which I did back in 2021. I was asked by China Daily to present on the latest goings on in AI. So let me just click on my PowerPoint slide. All right, and they asked me to talk about, do you all see the PowerPoint slide? Okay, future of AI in manufacturing industries. You're probably thinking, well, but I've never run a factory. But I just went out and spoke to people that were running factories. I used my videos and put everything together so I can speak about it. And there are different forces at work going on in organizations, and generally, not all manufacturers in the region have AI. They're not ready with AI. They haven't even got to fully economizing on Industry 3.0, let alone talking about Industry 4.0. The challenge for innovation in different countries really depends on what the government wants. So in some centralized government countries like China, Vietnam, a lot of the plans are engineering based. In US and Australia, a lot of the plans are more R&D and science-based innovation. So there are different forces at play that you need to understand for why Industry 4.0 may take off or not take off in different countries. These are the catalysts for innovation. So you have government centralized plans, you have customers driving innovation, you have efficiency-based innovation, then you have R&D and science-based innovation. And the big thing that I was talking about, or the context, was China. So they had the government One Belt and Road, or the China 2025 plan. The other big thing was an inhibitor to change in Asia was the owner mindset, because sometimes they were very family driven and not data driven. They want things to stay in the family and not grow for the sake of creating a better product. When we look at AI in a factory, then it looks like this. Your ChatGPT is doing something like this. It's actually being trained, not in the form of dog, cat, dog, cat, dog, cat, but it's being trained in terms of verb, noun, verb, noun, verb, noun, in terms of what English word should come next when it's constructing a sentence for you. You with me here? All right, so that's the AI you're working with. So they call the model you're working with a language-based model. All right, but what becomes deeper than that is where they use image-based models. So the AI, when it sees a dog, it calls it a dog. When it sees a cat, it calls it a cat. And that's a little bit more sophisticated than a language model. But that's on the machine learning side. But when we go across to the factory, then you might see there's an accounting system at top, the ERP, but what you don't see and what you haven't been taught about is the MES system or the SCADA system or the PLC system. Or the sensors, actuators, motors, hardware instrumentation on the factory floor. And for AI to really work in manufacturing, these systems need to be connected. Something like a balanced scorecard, Prash. Okay. Where are factories in the world at the moment? Tesla is probably the closest to having all of these systems integrated. Tesla's the best example of that. Generally, AI helps companies to work with big data. And it really depends on where that data is collected that makes AI helpful or unhelpful in the organization. So let me show you some examples. If we go around the world, we can see the big multinationals are using AI, but what are they using it for? I haven't got Tesla here, but Tesla is probably the only one that is using it, AI, in the broadest sense. That is across all levels of the EMS system. A lot of these companies are using AI to detect in real time problems or defects. They're not necessarily connecting what customers are asking for with what the robots have to make. They're not there yet. Tesla is doing that. But these companies are using AI, but you can see they're using it to detect defects. Very few are using AI for predictive analytics. Schneider Electric is. Canon is. If we look at all of these updated, if I look at Tesla Automotive, it's using AI for autonomous driving capabilities and in-factory automation processes. Probably the most expansive use of AI out of any company in the world. Most of these other companies are using AI to find problems, to detect predictive maintenance. You can see that. You with me? And increasingly, these companies, especially automotive, if they want to compete with Tesla, they're going to have to expand the use of AI. All right. And there's some other details of where AI is being used based on a 2019 Kearney report that really needs to be updated. Getting back to where companies are in Asia. We want to move away from AI at the moment because most companies are not there. Most companies they've documented their processes and they're moving to continuous improvement, where you might have factory and product audits, you have partnerships with OEM customers, that's original equipment manufacturing customers, or they might learn from third parties. And a lot of companies are here and they're trying to move to digitization, where they have greater data collection on their suppliers. They have more data collection on their partnerships, customer demand, and they have more data collection on so they can comply with regulations. You don't need AI to do any of these. Okay? So you can be digitized without having to have AI. Ideally, you want to go to the next level where AI starts to combine this data to help you predict defects, to help you improve efficiency and give you feedback on operations every 5 days, every 1 week, instead of every month or every quarter. That's the difference. Okay. AI can actually help give that feedback faster and faster and faster. So then you can improve faster. In the old days, improvements initiatives were implemented over a 6-month time frame, or you waited for feedback after 6 months or 1 year, and then you do some improvement. Now, Tesla's doing that every week, every month. And so if you want to compete with Tesla, you need to be doing that too, because after 12 months, when you get around to implement new initiatives, do some improvements, Tesla has done it 24 times. And then 2 years, and you've done it 3 or 4 times, Tesla has done it 48 times. You can't compete. All right. So AI enables these cycles of improvements to go faster. That's the big difference. But don't walk out of this session thinking that AI replaces 1, 2, and 3. Okay. AI, if you haven't got 1, 2, and 3 in place, you cannot benefit from AI. Most companies in Asia, most manufacturing companies, are at 1, 2, or 3 stage. I would say, if we were to draw a graph, the majority are probably in the middle stage. All right, you have a minority here and you have a minority here. Okay, and so if we were to draw a distribution, then it would go up and then down again. You with me here? All right. So Neil, what are you talking about? You're just an academic. How can we believe you? Well, you think I'm just an academic. Here we have 2 factories. Okay. Differences in the factory setup. Okay. They both make headphones, but one factory forces me to go into a air dryer to remove all the dust. The factory at the bottom just welcomed me in to the assembly room without cleaning the dust off my jacket. You see that? Suddenly we're in the assembly room here. All right. The one at the top is more amenable to maybe getting the benefits of digitization and AI. The one at the bottom is far from that. The one at the bottom is probably far from continuous improvement. It's probably, you could run a cycle of continuous improvement, the one at the bottom, but it's not digitized. The one at the top, we could imagine that being digitized. You see the difference? All right. And these are two factories in China, not far from each other. All right. Let me show you two more factories. All right. The one at the top looks fully automated. The one at the bottom is not. They're basically, you have this operator here, you have this one. They're both making the hoverboards themselves from start to finish. Here, this operator might do three things, and then that hoverboard, partly finished, will move on to the next operator. If one of these operators is sick on any particular day, then that will just close down the operations by 25% if there's 4 operators. You're with me here. If this operator is sick, bless his soul, then he can easily be replaced by another operator, maybe with just 15 minutes, 20 minutes of training, because they only have to do 3 things. All right, see the difference? So this one here is at the stage of documentation. This factory here is at the stage of continuous improvement. And so when you're at the stage of continuous improvement and you've got the physical layout set up, then you can start to digitize this operation. You wouldn't even think about digitizing this operation. You with me here? So there are steps that you need to go through. You cannot just say, oh, let's just do AI so we can compete. You've got documentation, continuous improvement, digitization, then you think about AI. Another example, the same factories. The batteries are coming from another supplier. They're not even testing the batteries. There's 20 of them that go into this cell. This supplier at the top receives the individual cells, and each of those cells are being tested by a machine before they are then put together to be made into something like this. So you can see that this supplier at the top is closer to digitizing their operation. They've already digitizing the operation because you've got the machine collecting the data on these cells that are coming into the organization. They're not digitizing anything here. There's absolutely no continuous improvement going on here. And you can see now they're putting the cells together to make that blue battery pack that was in this factory here. And you see, they're the cells. There's 20 of them. They're put together to make the blue battery pack. And you see how they're starting to put together, and they will make the batteries. I'm not sure if they'll show. There you are, the blue battery pack, the final make. See that? All right. So factories are not there yet in Asia. And I think I showed you this last week, how we go through finding faults. And Prash, you saw this last week, right? Week before. And we look for the QC chart, and then we go and look that the SD card, the micro SD card, when it goes in, is not reading properly. So we go and look where they're screwing the front onto the PCB board, and the screwing process, we need to check that to make sure that's stable. And then obviously it's not stable because when they're doing the screwing, when we have a look, we see that there's no cradle to hold that screwing, and he's holding it with one hand, trying to screw with the other, and it's easy to make a mistake. All right. Where else could the mistake come from? It come from soldering. So what do? We go around to the person, do the soldering, and then we can see, again, what he's soldering is not in the cradle. And you can see as he's doing the soldering, it's moving. You with me here? So how could we expect this person to do a perfect solder every time? No wonder why there are rejects on the assembly line. And so this is what we mean by continuous improvement. Okay, remember, documentation, continuous improvement, then digitization, then AI. All right. So just, and we can show you this one, which is in a much better situation, this factory here, than the one at the bottom. You can see again, I'm getting the dust blowing off me here, but here we just go straight in. The operator is operating the machine, but look at this. The operator is talking on the cell phone. Like this is like driving with your cell phone. Like, how can you expect the manufacturing process to be perfect quality when you got an operator just working with one hand? Are you with me here? Right? Whereas in here, we've got much more control over what is going on. You can see they're making smartphones, so it's a much higher end operation. And you can see the assembly line. We weren't even allowed to go in here because these machines were top secret. And so there you have it. All right, so another area where AI might be able to be improved in the digitization process is here, because all of these companies need to have a burn-in room. That is, they have to plug in every electronic item that is manufactured. And you see that this is documentation, not digitization. You see that? This is documentation. This is not digitization, right? Same here, documentation. And so we want to go and have a look at another factory where they've digitized this operation. So let's have again, documentation, not digitization. You with me? Right. So let's have a look at this factory who has digitized the same process. There's all the products and they're all plugged in, right? They're all charging, right? Okay. But they digitized the process. And you're probably thinking, Neil, but how do you know? Well, I'm asking the operator, where's the computer? Where's the computer that tells the operator the results of this testing? So he will have to come and show me. Let's have a look. I will, let's have a look. We're going around, we're going to have a look. We see the computer. There it is there. Look at that. And so there's each item and the computer is registering how well they are charging. You see that? So this is your signs of digitization. And it may be that AI can do stuff with this, but it cannot do anything with documented processes. You with me? All right. So this is some examples of, if you're going to use AI, you need to think about how are you collecting data? And are you just at a stage of continuous improvement? Okay. And they're the things I tell buyers to think about pre-factory and the factory visit. So let me just stop there and get back to chapter 11, which is chapter 11, right? Application of IT. They talk about big data. They talk about application. They talk about robotics and artificial intelligence. I hope in this last hour, this session, that I have given you something meaningful to understand that is not in the textbook, something that I have witnessed firsthand by going into factories myself, just to show you that not all factories are there, okay? AI cannot just change a factory if the factory isn't first digitized, all right? And a factory cannot be digitized if it hasn't gone through a process of continuous improvement. And it cannot do that if they haven't started documenting things. And I just hope that, I know that today's session is on over the Teams, but I hope you have something meaningful to take away from today's session. I'll just stop there and bring it back to you for questions. Sia, how are you? What's your impressions?
Yeah, it's very interesting when you put the AI perspective, that how it can be implemented in the manufacturing industry. Like we cannot just imagine AI doing wonders without having, your own house in order. Like our first steps that the manufacturing industries need to keep. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Prash, what jumped out to you?
It's like we're going through the process, like documentation is first and then the continuous improvement, then digitization. It's like that's really good. I think we can't jump up to AI without that process.
Yeah.
And then that can be used in our own life. Like if you want to do something, like with the AI, you need to have digitization first. And with the factories and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Islam, any comments you'd like to put into the chat room? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Happy. Yes.
And that ChatGPT things was really good. The graph.
Oh,
Yeah, the
good.
graph one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I tried in one of my subject, there was we had to prepare a chart. So I tried experimenting in the chat GPT. So the solution that it gave, that chat GPT doesn't support. I was on chat GPT 3 at that time. So yeah, so it did not even hinted that I can get a Python code or something. So I thought that it's only for the like theory, we can get. But this is really interesting that.
I'm sure GPT-3 will give you the Python code. All right. It's just that you didn't know Colab. All right.
Yeah.
You probably think, give you Python. Oh, I don't know that. Okay, next thing, just, and then you move on, forget about it, right? But now that you know Colab, you just plugged into Python and whammo, there you go. So, well, I'm really happy. I hope that today was very valuable for you, and you know that there's a feedback link for this unit, and always appreciate your feedback on that, your learning. And we've recorded this session, so I'll put it back into the LMS so you could go over it if you need. And I think the interesting part is that this is very encouraging for you, especially for the assignment, because for your assignment, you will be looking at which company?
Tesla.
You will be looking at Tesla. Okay, so that might stretch your thinking a little bit further, and which we expect. And remember, in 2 weeks' time, I'm expecting some, and it may be part of your presentation, you get GPT to make a graph of Tesla's competition or pie graph, just like I showed you. You know, that's fine. But what's important is that you bring your energy and your own DNA to the presentation, okay? And not someone else's presentation, which will be on the 18th of October. Okay, so we've got in 2 weeks from Friday, you'll be doing a presentation in class. Okay, so you'll need to rehearse, practice, don't leave things to the last minute. What do you think? Are you more motivated now after today?
Yes.
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of. Oh, okay. Well, I was when I saw the graph, I go, wow, you know, like it was a real nice graph too. It wasn't just a,
Yeah, it was.
you know, it just
Yeah.
it was fantastic. I can't believe it. All right.
So,
It's like
okay, I
magic.
just one question for the assignment. Basically, we are covering which week's material, like which week's material will be beneficial for us for last 6 to 8?
You need. I would have to go back and see what the assignment says.
Okay.
I want to read word for word exactly what the assignment asks for. That would. But remember, we're talking about Tesla's strategy. Okay, let me just say, let's have a look. Let's have a look. What are you required to questions? All right, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 questions. All right, and it really revolves around the last 4 weeks of class: external environment, strategic capability, competitive advantage, and maybe a little bit of the balanced scorecard, chapter 10. Okay. All right. So I think core competencies, what stage the industry life cycle, innovative approach, rapid expansion, and relies heavily on vehicle sales. Okay. And there's additional references. What's important for your presentation is, number one, you have to present like you are Tesla. See how? All right.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not expecting you to present like a student. You really, I want to know that it's in your DNA.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, ChatGPT might help you get some stuff together, but then you're going to be assessed on how well you put everything together and then present it. All right. Okay. So that's going to take you time. You need to rehearse, practice, maybe make a video of yourself, maybe listen back and again and again. All right. So, and that's important. Why? Because when you go for a job interview, you may have to create a video of yourself. Who are you? You know, what do you stand for? Why should we employ you? Okay. What do you think? Maybe they ask you to survey their company. and you come and present back to them. Are you just going to rehash what they already know? Or are you going to bring some sparkle into that presentation? You with me here?
Yeah.
So don't just come and tell me what I already know, because I already asked ChatGPT too. All right. All right. What are you going to bring? What sparkle are you going to bring to each of these questions? All right. So think of it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Prash, any questions?
Not right now, but
All right. So we'll see you both on Friday.
Yeah.
And Isam? Cool, huh?
yeah.
All right. So do we get 10 out of 10 for today's lecture?
Yes,
9
Yes,
out of
yes.
10? What do we
yeah,
got?
10 out of 10.
Yes, 10 on 10.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So you
You
learned
also give us
something.
30 on 30.
Oh, thank you. All right. All right. We'll see what we can do. All right. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you on
Thank
Friday.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Most well, and don't forget, go into the workflow document and give feedback on how is this, what is working for you, and how am I making it interesting for you? Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. See
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.